大家好，讀你聽2.0嘅時間，今日繼續讀 A.Christie 嘅 Sparkling Cyanide， 去到 Book 2嘅 Chapter 5啦。咁上一回呢，就係講George Barton 啦，同埋 Colonel Race 之間嘅對話啦。終於呢，George 呢都講出佢嗰個密謀計劃嘅動機啦，同埋佢嘅睇法啦。不過嗰個計劃內容咧就始終都係賣住關子先嘅。而呢個 Colonel Race 咧亦都有憑佢嘅邏輯啦去分析案情啦。咁似乎咧都叫做俾到 George 嘅一啲線索嘅。不過咧阿 Race 對於阿 George 嘅呢個私自呢個英雄宴啦所謂。咁就呢個行為咧，唔聯絡警方私自行動咧，就投呢個反對票嘅。不過 George 咧唔聽，依然要繼續佢呢個計劃。咁唔繼續呢個計劃，邊度有戲睇咧？咁當然就係要繼續啦。咁先至有戲劇效果啊嘛。好啦，我哋睇下呢個第5節個案情發展啦。The morning of November 2nd dawned wet and gloomy.It was so dark in the dining room of the house in Elverson Square that they had to have the lights on for breakfast. Iris, contrary to her habit, had come down instead of having her coffee and toast sent up to her and sat there white and ghost-like, pushing uneaten food about her plate. George rustled his Times with a nervy hand, and at the other end of the table, Lucilla Drake wept copiously into a handkerchief. I know the dear boy will do something dreadful. He's so sensitive.And he wouldn't say it was a matter of life and death if it wasn't. Rustling his paper, George said sharply, Please don't worry, Lucilla. I've said I'll see to it. I know, dear George, you are always so kind, but I do feel any delay might be fatal. All these inquiries you speak of making, they will all take time. No, we'll hurry them through, he says, without fail by the 3rd, and tomorrow is the 3rd.I should never forgive myself if anything happened to the darling boy. It wouldn't. George took a long drink of coffee. And there is still that conversion loan of mine. Look here, Lucilla, you leave it all to me. Don't worry, Aunt Lucilla, put in Iris. George will be able to arrange it all. After all, this has happened before. Not for a long time. Not since the poor boy was deceived by those dreadful swindling friends of his on that horrid ranch.George wiped his moustache on his napkin, got up, patted Mrs. Drake kindly on the back as he made his way out of the room. Now do cheer up, my dear. I'll get Ruth to cable right away. As he went out in the hall, Iris followed him. George, do you think we ought to put off the party tonight? Aunt Lucilla is so upset. Hadn't we better stay at home with her? Certainly not. George's pink face went purple. Why should that damned swindling young crook upset our whole lives? It's blackmail, sheer blackmail. That's what it is. If I had my way, he shouldn't get a penny. Aunt Lucilla would never agree to that. Lucilla's a fool, always have been. These women who have children when they're over 40 never seem to learn any sense. Spoil the brats from the cradle by giving them every damn thing they want.If young Victor had once been told to get out of this mess by himself, it might have been the making of him. Now, don't argue, Iris. I'll get something fixed up before tonight so that Lucilla can go to bed happy. If necessary, we'll take her along with us. Oh, no, she hates restaurants and gets so sleepy, poor darling. And she dislikes the heat and the smoky air gives her asthma. I know. I wasn't serious. Go and cheer her up, Iris. Tell her everything will be all right.He turned away and out of the front door. Iris turned slowly back towards the dining room. The telephone rang and she went to answer it. Hello? Who? Her face changed. Its white hopelessness dissolved into pleasure. Anthony. Anthony himself. I rang you up yesterday but couldn't get you. Have you been putting in a spot of work with George? What do you mean? Well, George was so pressing over his invitation to your party tonight. Quite unlike his usual style of hands off my lovely ward.Absolutely insistent that I should come. I thought perhaps it was the result of some tactful work on your part. No, it's nothing to do with me. A change of heart all on his own? Not exactly. It's... Hello, have you gone away? No, I'm here. You were saying something. What's the matter, darling? I can hear you sighing through the telephone. Is anything the matter? No, nothing. I shall be all right tomorrow. Everything will be all right tomorrow. What touching faith. Don't they say tomorrow never comes? Don't. Iris, something is the matter. No, nothing. I can't tell you. I promise, you see. Tell me, my sweet. No, I can't really. Anthony, will you tell me something? If I can. Were you ever in love with Rosemary? A momentary pause and then a laugh. So that's it. Yes, Iris, I was a bit in love with Rosemary. She was very lovely, you know. And then one day I was talking to her and I saw you coming down the staircase. And in a minute it was all over. Blown away. There was nobody but you in the world. That's the cold, sober truth. Don't brood over a thing like that. Even Romeo, you know, had his Rosalind before he was bowled over for good and all by Juliet. Thank you, Anthony. I'm glad. See you tonight. It's your birthday, isn't it? Actually, not for a week. It's my birthday party, though. You don't sound very enthusiastic about it. I'm not. I suppose George knows what he's doing, but it seems to me a crazy idea to have it at the same place where... Oh, I've been to the Luxembourg several times since Rosemary. I mean, one can't avoid it. No, and it's just as well. I've got a birthday present for you, Iris. I hope you like it. Au revoir. He rang off. Iris went back to Lucilla Drake to argue, persuade, and reassure. George, on his arrival at his office, sent at once for Ruth Lessing. His worried frown relaxed a little as she entered, calm and smiling in her neat black coat and skirt. Good morning, Ruth. Trouble again, look at this. She took the cable he held out. Victor Drake again. Yes, curse him. She was silent a minute, holding the cable. A lean brown face wrinkled up round the nose when he laughed, a mocking voice saying, the sort of girl who ought to marry the boss. How vividly it all came back. She thought it might have been yesterday. George's voice recalled her. Wasn't it about a year ago that we shipped him out there? She reflected. I think so, yes. Actually, I believe it was October 27th. What an amazing girl you are. What a memory. She thought to herself that she had a better reason for remembering than he knew. It was fresh from Victor Drake's influence that she had listened to Rosemary's careless voice over the phone and decided that she hated her employer's wife. I suppose we're lucky, said George, that he's lasted as long as he has out there. Even if it did cost us £50 3 months ago. £300 now seems a lot. Oh yes, he won't get as much as that. We'll have to make the usual investigations. I'd better communicate with Mr. Ogilvy. Alex Ogilvy was their agent in Buenos Aires, a sober, hard-headed Scotsman. Yes, cable at once. His mother is in a state, as usual, practically hysterical. Makes it very difficult with the party tonight. Would you like me to stay with her? No. He negatived the idea emphatically. No, indeed. You're the one person who's got to be there. I need you, Ruth. He took her hand. You're too unselfish. I'm not unselfish at all. She smiled and suggested, would it be worth trying telephonic communication with Mr. Ogilvy? We might get the whole thing cleared up by tonight. A good idea. Well worth the expense. I'll get busy at once. Very gently, she disengaged her hand from his and went out. George dealt with various matters awaiting his attention. At 12:30, he went out and took a taxi to the Luxembourg. Charles, the notorious and popular head waiter, came towards him, bending his stately head and smiling in welcome. Good morning, Mr. Barton. Good morning, Charles. Everything all right for tonight? I think you'll be satisfied, sir. The same table? The middle one in the alcove. That's right, is it not? Yes, and you understand about the extra place. It's all arranged. And you've got the rosemary. Yes, Mr. Barton, I'm afraid it won't be very decorative. You won't like some red berries incorporated or say a few chrysanthemums? No, only the rosemary. Very good, sir. You would like to see the menu. Giuseppe? With a flick of the thumb, Charles produced a smiling little middle-aged Italian. The menu for Mr. Barton. It was produced. Oysters, clear soup, sole Luxembourg, grouse, poire Hélène, chicken livers in bacon. George cast an indifferent eye over it. Yes, quite all right. He handed it back. Charles accompanied him to the door. Sinking his voice a little, he murmured, May I just mention how appreciative we are, Mr. Barton, that you are coming back to us? A smile, rather a ghastly smile, showed on George's face. He said, "We've got to forget the past. Can't dwell on the past. All that is over and done with." "Very true, Mr. Barton. You know how shocked and grieved we were at the time. I'm sure I hope that Mademoiselle will have a very happy birthday party and that everything will be as you like it." Gracefully bowing, Charles withdrew and darted like an angry dragonfly on some very inferior grade of waiter who was doing the wrong thing at the table near the window. George went out with a wry smile on his lips. He was not an imaginative enough man to feel a pang of sympathy for the Luxembourg. It was not, after all, the fault of the Luxembourg that Rosemary had decided to commit suicide there or that someone has decided to murder her there. It had been decidedly hard on the Luxembourg. But like most people with an idea, George thought only of that idea. He lunched at his club and went afterwards to a directors' meeting. On his way back to the office, he put through a phone call to a made-a-fail number from a public call box. He came out with a sigh of relief. Everything was set according to schedule. He went back to the office. Ruth came to him at once. "About Victor Drake." "Yes. I'm afraid it's rather a bad business. A possibility of criminal prosecution. He's been helping himself to the firm's money over a considerable period." "Did Ogilvy say so?" "Yes, I got through to him this morning and he called a call through to us this afternoon 10 minutes ago. He says Victor was quite brazen about the whole thing. He would be, but he insists that they won't prosecute if the money is refunded. Mr. Ogilvy saw the senior partner and that seems to be correct. The actual sum in question is £165, so that Master Victor was hoping to pocket a clear £135 on the transaction." "I'm afraid so." "Well, we've squashed that, at any rate," said George with grim satisfaction. "I told Mr. Ogilvy to go ahead and settle the business. Was that right? Personally, I should be delighted to see that young crook go to prison, but one has to think of his mother. A fool, but a dear soul. So Master Victor scores as usual." "How good you are," said Ruth. "Me? I think you're the best man in the world." He was touched. He felt pleased and embarrassed at the same time. On an impulse, he picked up her hand and kissed it. "Dearest Ruth, my dearest and best of friends, what would I have done without you?" They stood very close together. She thought, I could have been happy with him. I could have made him happy, if only. He thought, should I take Race's advice? Should I give it all up? Wouldn't that really be the best thing? Indecision hovered over him and passed. He said, 9:30 at the Luxembourg. 好啦，咁就係一個過渡性嘅章節啦。你問我嘅話就主要都係跟住 George Barton 焦點都係講佢即係安排咗少少嘢啦，喺嗰個 restaurant 喺呢個 Luxembourg 嗰度。咁另一方面咧就係 Victor Drake 又撞板啦。咁 Victor Drake 嘅撞板同呢個 George 嘅處理手法有冇同呢件案有關聯呢？咁喺呢一刻就冇畫上一個等號嘅，但係就呢個鋪排似乎係會有關聯喎。如果唔係即係咁就好多餘咯呢樣嘢。咁 Victor偷錢啊，做啲唔見得光嘅嘢啊，然之後要 George 去填氹咧，都唔係第一次噶啦，都慣噶啦。咁但係呢一刻咧，阿 George 就其實只係想快快脆脆處理咗 Victor 嘅啫，佢最想要做嘅就係去設陷阱啊嘛，所以佢呢一刻嘅心思咧都係喺 Luxembourg 嗰度噶啦。咁我哋睇下有啲咩字同大家分享先。佢安排呢個 George 安排呢個 dinner party 嗰陣時候咧，佢有嗰個 waiter 有提到嘅，你係咪淨係想要 rosemary 嘅花啊？我哋仲有其他花喎，譬如 chrysanthemum 咧係一個 plant of the daisy family with brightly coloured ornamental flowers existing in many cultivated varieties。中文其實就係菊花咯，菊花嘅一種。咁就呢一個章節就係得呢個名詞，我覺得可以比較有趣，同大家分享咧。我哋下一節再同大家見。